Chapter 22. Do they know any details? Reef asked. He was pacing back and forth in Colville's office, his hands clenching and unclenching as he moved. Shelley Simpson had phoned for a taxi even before coming to find him and delivering Colville's message to return to North Hills. He jumped out even before the taxi had pulled to a complete stop, then raced up the steps, knowing what had happened, hoping it wasn't true, but still knowing. Colville sat in a chair across from the one Reef had been sitting in a few moments earlier. Just what I told you. They found him down near the waterfront this morning. Near Rowdy's, right? Reef's voice was low and even, but he was sure Colville could hear the tremor beneath the words. He cursed himself in his head, Colville too. A couple blocks from there, but the police haven't established a connection. Reef's snort cut him off. Connection, my ass. That was payback. Rowdy has a long memory. He said, referring to the liquor license the city had revoked. He knew he should have called Jink the day he saw that news article, but he was sure Jink knew. How could he not? And what could he have said? Told him to be careful? Right. Only pussies and queers needed to be careful. Jink was invincible. Except he wasn't. He's stable, Colville said quietly. When'll he be out of the hospital? Colville didn't answer right away, and Reef stopped pacing, stood in front of the seated man, waiting. I'm not sure, Colville finally replied. I doubt if anyone knows at this point. When Reef resumed pacing, he continued, Look, I know Jink is like family to you. Greg knows too, which is why he's arranged to take you to the hospital. But you need to be prepared for whatever. Just then the office phone rang. Colville reached for it. North Hills, Colville here. He listened briefly. Just a minute, he said, then turned to Reef. It's for you. I'll give you some privacy. He handed Reef the receiver and left the office, closing the door behind him. Hello? Reef said. Jesus, Reef, isn't it awful? Scar's voice was too small for the room, for the receiver in Reef's hand. In the background, he heard Bigger's voice. He wasn't making words, just sounds, like syllables in a blender. Their ends clipped off, each one running into the next. He was drunk and he was crying. I just heard, Reef said. You there with him now? We were, she said. They asked us to leave when Bigger wouldn't settle down. How is he? Oh, Reef, if you saw him, you wouldn't recognize him. His face is all... And then she was crying too. There was another wail in the background, followed by a new stream of syllables that Reef could tell was a threat or a promise. I wish you were here, Reef. I will be. Matheson's coming to get me. As if on cue, Matheson's escort turned into the driveway. Miraculously, it wasn't much louder than the other cars that passed by on the street, but blue smoke still plumed behind it like a peacock in full fan. He's here now, Reef said. I'll see you in a few minutes. He dropped the receiver without waiting for a reply. Scar and Bigger met him at the hospital entrance. The bitches won't let me in, Bigger wailed, his huge voice drawing the attention of everyone entering and leaving. Greg Matheson tried to put an arm around Bigger's shoulder, but gave up because of the teenager's bulk and guided him to a chair just inside the entrance. Matheson looked up at Reef. I'll take care of him. You and Scar go see about Jink. Reef nodded, took Scar's hand, and pulled her toward the bank of elevators ahead of them. Which floor? He asked, pushing both the up and down buttons. 7th, she said. She let go of his hand and was hugging her arms around her. 2 of the elevators opened at the same time. They stepped into the one closer to them, and Reef pushed 7, then realized it was going down. Fuck, he said, and 2 women already in the elevator exchanged looks, moved slightly away from him. The elevator went down 1 floor, the woman got off, and then it headed back up, only to stop again on the main level, where 3 more people got on. Each person was going to a different floor, none higher than the 5th. By the time the elevator reached the 7th floor, Reef was ready to kick the control panel off the goddamn wall. They hurried down the hallway, Scar leading the way to the intensive care unit. When they got there, a woman behind the nurse's station came around to meet them. Can I help you? She asked, but Reef could see in her eyes something more than a desire to help, suspicion maybe, and fear.